Just checking the mic and all that stuff to make sure. Nope. See, there we go. Glad I double checked that because that would have been irritating.
Did you have it on too low, or you had it on?
It was on mute.
Mute. So that would have been fun. We would have
just been talking and nothing would have been happening.
That would have been like your first one that you did that it happened that way, didn't it?
Yep.
You learn after that.
You learn after a while. You learn. Welcome to another episode of KC Legends. I am here with somebody that I have been trying to get in my clutches for since I met him. I've been trying, I want to interview you and learn all of the things. And here you are finally, just as you're about to leave us. Hi, Matthew.
Hello. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I don't like to talk about myself, so this is going to be a fun episode. So,
right. You are someone who is averse to talking about yourself and or taking the flowers that you deserve. So here, what we're going to do today is force you to take the flowers that you deserve.
Well, if you tie me up and have this conversation, it'll make it even better. It'll be good. Anyway.
If I had some rope, I would.
Yeah, it's fine. It's good. Anyway, so let's see. Where to start? That's the fun stuff.
So let's start. You are not originally from Kansas City.
No, I grew up in a small town in Minnesota. The military, of all things, I wanted to get out of my little small town as quick as possible. So that was joining the military, which was a wonderful, very short experience, because I pretty much got kicked out for a pre-existing medical condition called being gay. But that is what brought me to Whiteman Air Force Base. So thank you, military, and thank you for me wanting to leave home as quick as possible, because I just joined pre-9/11, and I wanted to, see the world and do all these great things the military is going to do for you, and get my education paid for. So that brought me to outside of Kansas City.
So interestingly enough, because I grew up military as well. We've talked about this.
Yep.
And kind of have very similar. Although I grew up military, you went into the military. My dad told me, "Don't do that. don't go in there. It's not for you." But you were there right around. That was right around like Don't Ask, Don't Tell,
mm-hmm.
and I remember having growing up near a military base, and I grew up in Virginia near NAS Norfolk and Langley Air Force Base and all of that. That there were so many people who were kicked out for being gay. How does that because you had this whole part of yourself that you have to keep secret or you will lose your job. Was there fear in that?
For me, it wasn't. I always was. They don't ask it. The whole change of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was essentially back in the day they could go into a gay bar and arrest everybody there and find out who is military and question them, and you're going to tell us all the people you slept with and you're going to tell us this, and then we're going to rinse and repeat that whole cycle with all these people you just gave us names for. Don't Ask, Don't Tell is pretty much, you don't talk about it, we're not going to ask about it. Could I get kicked out? Yes. But at the same time, I was still my genuine true self, and that's probably why I got kicked out very shortly, because having fun in the dormitory, in the public spaces, in the laundry room of one of the nearby universities, and being in uniform probably wasn't a smart idea. But it was a different time and a different period, and it's amazing that, I could have I was lucky to get an honorable discharge versus somebody else. I could have literally got kicked out and had a dishonorable discharge just for being gay, which is insane.
I know quite a few people who have dishonorable discharges.
If you have a dishonorable discharge, you can't even work at Walmart or McDonald's or anything else like that. So it is horrible.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I, growing up in that area, knowing a bunch of people that got dishonorable discharges, they weren't even, and it was really hard at that point because there were so many military installations in just this small area. The gay bar that I started going to when I first came, I was a little baby gay, was nothing but military dudes.
Oh yeah.
And so while it was Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it was nothing for them to show up for someone's first sheriff or their to show up at the gay bar
Yep.
because they knew that's where everybody was going to be at.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily don't ask, don't tell. It was much we're not going to ask, but if you get caught,
Yeah.
you're gone.
I enjoyed it. It made it fun because it was almost like being able to be cruising type of way at the same time with people. And then if something does come up, like, no, dude, that's gay. I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that.
And then, hey, let's have fun, on base during the search area of the front gate. Well, the doors anybody could walk in on, but that was just pure innocent me. So. Every place is an opportunity for fun, regardless of you're having a B-2 fly over your head while you're getting head or anything else. So, yeah.
So, let's go back. I want to go back just a little bit. How was growing up in small town Minnesota as a little gay boy? Like, was it difficult? Was it tough? Did it... especially as someone as open as you.
I was not as open and outgoing as I am now. I was just a big old band nerd, and that was my family was my music family of doing that. It was the gay people were the ones that were in the alternative school. You were not out. There was ways of flirting with people enough to figure out whether they were or not, and thank God, some of the neighbor kids happened to be a little okay with whatever would happen. But it definitely wasn't. It was definitely a sign that being in a small town was not for me, and getting out of that space to find who I really was the important key. At that point, gay.com existed. I could went into the cities for those first experiences, and it's small towns are horrible.
Gay.com saved so many of our lives. Let's just go ahead and pour a little bit out for Gay.com.
Which now doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't exist now. But man, if you were alive during that, and like a little gays that during that time of Gay.com, it was magic.
But okay, so even before Gay.com, I remember dial-up version of porn.
Yeah.
Waiting for. Oh, I think I can see his eyes. Oh my God, look at his eyes. And you get off from that. Or, in the loud, middle of the night where you're trying to look at something and then you hear the loud dial-up of trying to research stuff.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember there was this chat called WBS chat that was it was almost it was right before. After the BBS systems, but before AIM.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was really active. There used to be a lot of Yahoo groups that were super fun, and you had all kinds of gay chat groups for the cities we're in and all of that. So
Yahoo groups, the AOL groups. There was the IRC groups. I think a lot of us really spent a lot of our gay life online, and I think that's kind of where the grinders and the scruffs and all that kind of come out of that. We got used to being able to just that's how we communicated.
But in the old chat room way, I liked because I could say what's going on tonight, and there's at least 100 people in this chat room with you, and you knew, hey, there's this pastor party at blah blah blah,
right? Or
there's this going on at whatever else, or hey, we know you're into music. When I moved to Kansas City, do you know there's this gay band? And it was a great way to. The community actually stuck together still.
Yeah, it's I have long said, both on this show and on others, and in real life, that the apps killed part of gay culture.
I would say the apps killed gay culture, but also are wanting to be equal like everybody else, and we are now
our sense of that need.
We want to be normal, and. I don't want to be normal. I enjoy being normal. I enjoy being me. I enjoy being whatever it is. And if that means you want to have 2.5 kids and a dog, by all means, go for it.
Right. And I
have tried to have 2.5 kids and a dog. For some reason, neither of them have taken.
I don't want any of those things. I don't. I have a hard time taking care of me, so I know I don't want to take care of anything else. So let's kind of move forward a little bit. How did you get into like leather and kink? What was your like introduction into that?
Part of that I will save for later to talk about, but a lot of my early days I will talk about with that. But a lot of curiosity. I mean, I remember going to sex parties and I was like, ew, that person's getting, fisted or something else horrible's going on. No, that's not for me. But when you're getting paid to explore those things with somebody, it's amazing how different your openness to those things will be.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about.
We're going to talk about that in the second half.
I think that's a really.
But so there was that. But then for me, it was always the military. Like people like so turned on by uniforms, and I was like, uniforms. I wear this every day. No big deal. But it was always, what else is there? What else can I explore? What else can I constantly want to know more knowledge and learn? And there was no gay leather scene at that time. I mean, when I started going out, the Dixie Belle existed, but was in the last stages of its life. And finding kink and finding leather were relying on Recon, which came out, which was amazing, and different other sites that were more focused to that. I learned by trusting a lot of people to help steer you in the right direction, and the submissive side to learn those type of things, which resulted in some very abusive relationships, which you learn a lot about yourself through those experiences, and I will talk more about that in the second half as well. But a lot of it is just self-exploratory and finding good people that you had fun with on a regular basis because they were encouraging and oh my god, I just got suspended and this happened and this happened and this happened. And oh my god, it was so much fun. And getting good people that wanted to train you in new things. Like I had an amazing person that we're going to pick out one kink and that's the only thing we're going to focus on. Just that, so you're comfortable. We're going to ask questions. We're going to communicate what's going on. And then we're going to add something new to that. We're going to do the same thing, but then we're going to include the thing from before. So before you know it, it's a complete crazy fun circus.
You're doing all kinds of things.
But my big thing. I mean, I was active with the fisting community specifically for. It's a long time to think about. Over 10 years ago. So my first love with that was literally just I had a good connection with somebody who it was just let's just play with toys and toy play and. I think you can take this toy. Yeah, that toy's fun. I think you can. How about this toy? This toy's even bigger. Sure, I can do that. And as you expand your knowledge and you expand other things, it's amazing how
everything expands.
Everything it got to the point where I think you could probably take this, and it was just a toy play moment. And okay, sure, let's give it a go. And literally my first time getting fisted was recorded because it was just so unexpected of like, okay, you're going to take it, and I think you're going to be able to take it. And I'm just screaming and hollering and yelling and enjoying every moment of it and didn't want it to stop. It was just amazing. But I think leather itself was not the same as it is today. Kink side of things. Kink isn't leather. Leather isn't kink. That's a long conversation for another day. A lot of my early education was just expanding on the things I had, and you get those good play partners that before you know it, your 25th birthday is in a sling and you have 5 people jerking off inside your hole.
Okay.
That's the peachiest version of that I can say.
So your regalia says you are part of the Pioneers.
I am, yeah.
How did you get started with the Pioneers?
So there was already a very good group of people I was already active going to Mr. Missouri Leather competition because there was no leather, in my view, in Kansas City left that I went to out of state out of city events to meet people, met a lot of great people at Blue Max, which is one of the clubs that's in St. Louis.
Blue Max.
Shout out to Blue Max, love you all. But So for me, there was a group of us that were like, we want to start something, and it's do we. At that point, there was a new event that was called Layback Leather that it was started by a person called Thud, who's now left Kansas City, and it was just come hang out, come be in gear, come enjoy being you, whatever leather you want to wear, and have fun and make the gay bars what they used to be. More cruisy, more fun, more specific men-minded play space, kind of not play space, but space to roll something into another space.
It gives that old school kind of that old school kind of gay bar vibe.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. And so like I had already talked to different other people, and they were like, I was like, how do you grow the community in Kansas City? And they were like, show up with a bag full of your fucking gear and just. Here's a harness. You want to wear a harness? I think you'd look really good in a harness. You should try this harness on. Doesn't he look good in a harness? And then all of a sudden you get, hey, he's going to get in a harness. How about you take your shirt off? How about this happen? How about that happen? And before you know it, you got everyone shirtless, everybody having a good time, everybody looking good in a harness, everybody feeling sexy, and the empowerment that you can give somebody by just little things here and there to encourage people. But for me, it's always been empowering and encouraging other people. I've had a lot of experience before the leather growth of Kansas City of doing a lot of different nonprofit work with musical organizations. So it was kind of the let's get involved in something local and make the leather community what it is. So essentially, Thud was a good friend or was a roommate at the time of one of the members of the Pioneers, and we were like, so do we join the Pioneers or do we start our own leather club? And a lot of that was we need to preserve the history of the Pioneers, even though we didn't even know where a meeting was or what was going on. And I remember showing up to a meeting upstairs, and they were just sitting upstairs at Missy B's smoking in a normal meeting that they were having, and there was like 5 members at the time, and they were planning their run that was going to be a couple of months at that point, and I think I was the only one who showed up out of the group right away, and then like 30 minutes into the meeting, like 4 or 5 other people show up that were interested in joining, and they were like, wow, there's a lot of people who are interested in the organization. So at that point, I decided to pledge and be a member of the Pioneers, and part of the pledge process is getting to know all of the full members and emeritus members of the organization, which I love. I'm a big history nerd, so a chance to hear stories from other people, meet someone like Dean that was on last week of like, Dean, I want to get to know you because I want to know what my older self is going to be like. I need to interview my older self. Yeah, it was just, and it wasn't us, the younger generation, coming in and changing stuff. It was the younger generation. If I came in saying, what worked, what didn't work, what can we do? A lot of it was, for me, was the younger people need education. They need a space to be able to be trained in a consensual space. And so we started our first education event with the Pioneers. There was like 2 people who showed up, and they're like, "Oh my god, it was a great event!" And I was like, "Okay, let's
2 people here. That's...
2 people. We're doing good." But change takes time, and you have to build the relationships with people in the community. And I was always comfortable being out with who I was, and being out about my leather, and being out about my kink overall. Probably more than most people are. But that's not a bad thing. It's been encouraging for other people, and the more encouraging you are for other people, the more comfortable they are. And for me, whenever there was a new person in the Pioneers, it wasn't I'm gonna tell you how to do something. It was, what is your passion and how do you want to grow the community and how do you want to get involved with the community versus you need to do this and this is my rules. And I've always had the old school rules are always the wrong rules, and leather is whatever you want it to be. So how can I encourage you to make that happen for new people? And the Pioneers in the last 5 years have just really exploded and changed and been a treasurer, I've been the vice president, I've been the president. So, and now we're at 20 full members, and I think it's a really good time of getting an organization to speak out and wanting to do leather events, be more active with leather events, and the more those people are out and open, you find out that the leather people standing in the corner are nothing but a bunch of teddy bears. They're just sweethearts, and the leather facade is scary as fuck. But it's kind of like your shield, your armor to protect you at the same time.
I agree. I think it's that there's that level of like once I got, because I will as one of the newer members.
Yeah.
I was terrified at first. I came through. Man, I met you. I met Travis. Yeah. I met Rob, and I was like, "Oh, these people are fun." And they're like, "Oh, well, we're all part of the Pioneers," and I was like, "Oh, that's the leather group. They're scary." But what I loved about all of you guys, and what made me decide to come and pledge is like you show up to things. It's this idea that like. There's been a lot of conversations, especially being a person of color. Mm-hmm. Well, how do we get people to, bring people of color into the community? And how do we get people of color to do this and X, Y, Z? And really, it comes down to like, if they're doing something, show up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
you can't expect to have a seat at the table if you don't show up to even be seen, to be asked to seat at the table.
Right.
At that point, that if you're not on the radar and if they don't know you exist, how do they know that there's a need for you, or there's we want your views and your opinions?
Right.
Because I think it's encouraging for people to. For me, it's always been, if you don't like the community, be active, be a part of it, be part of the change, do something with it. Don't complain. Don't move away. Don't talk to me about that right now.
I'm like,
another reason about why I'm moving away, not because of why I'm unhappy with the community, but there's so many people who've left the Midwest because it's not kinky enough, it's not, the leather scene's not right, or whatever else they're not happy with. Be a part of the change you want the community. Be what you want the community to be. Be a leader by just supporting each other and encouraging each other. And one more thing on that, and just like part of when we started the Pioneers Growing, it was like, you all need to communicate with everybody in this room. And just because we're all standing there, you're not going to be in your clique, you're not going to be outstanders. Go make a point to know everybody here. And show that you're approachable. Show that you can have the conversations with people. Get to know their conversation. Get to know their stories.
Because I feel like we all got there. There's a reason we're all there. And one of the things that I always think is interesting, and it's going to be my last question for the PG side of this, is as someone you've gone through and you said you started out treasurer and then vice president and then now president, mm-hmm. And as you kind of look back on that whole journey with the Pioneers, what do you think are some things that you learned, about yourself, and things that if you could go back and do them again, you would do them differently?
Going back and doing things differently, I never say I would ever do that. It would always be where you're at because of the actions that made you who you are, that you run into people at some point in time. I think there's always ways to do things better. It's always easier to look back. But for the Pioneers, I think we've always been very middle of the road with stuff. We try not to get in people's drug into arguments or whatever. That part of being an organization is literally building it up around, or part of being a part of the leather community is literally building it up around organizations that will sustain the community, not just building it up around myself or another person. That's part of just being a good leader. But I don't know. I really don't have anything. No regrets. I wish I would have got involved sooner. I just didn't know they existed.
Right.
And but we're here, and it's been a good run.
So follow-up question, because I I know you mentioned, the Pioneers as an organization is tends to be middle of the road.
Yeah.
Doesn't really like involve itself into the drama and the dramas and things like that. Do you think that sometimes that could paint the Pioneers as maybe not engaged because they're not taking a side?
I think it's we will encourage somebody who has that passion to want to do something or has a drive to want to do something that might be offensive towards somebody else. What can we do to encourage you? What can we do to support you? What can we do for that? As an organization, you have to find a middle road that you can still grow on and you can sustain. And it is not an easy choice. I would love to be more proactive with certain things. I would love to be, more out about certain things that we're doing, but we're not there yet. The Pioneers as an organization aren't there yet. We're not where we should be visually even yet. We need to be at more events. We need to be at more stuff. We need to just have a leather bowling night or something of just go out and wear leather and instead of doing a crew bar takeover, do a leather bar takeover type of thing. And there's so much potential that you don't burn bridges. And the more you stay middle of the ground, you protect your organization and you allow yourself to grow with a more solid foundation. And it sucks, but there's a lot of bridges that can be burned really quickly, and you don't be a 50 or 48-year-old organization
by burning bridges. And I totally get that. I think that to me personally, that's a smart way to be.
Yeah.
When we always talk about, especially now with the fractures and things that are happening, it's always the Pioneers have been steadfast in their we are middle of the road, and I think I was talking with Travis a bit about there was someone, and we don't say names because we don't believe in that, that had issues with not taking a more activist, the Pioneers not taking a more activist stance on some issues.
Yeah.
And personally, and I think I'm a firm believer that if Mathew wanted to take an activist stance on things, absolutely, go ahead and do that.
When you take this vest off, you could be a whole different person. When you're wearing this vest, you are representing an organization, you're representing history, you're representing what the community needs to be. You need to think past just your emotions. But at the same time, your emotions and your feelings, you need to put into the community and put into the organization to make it grow. So it's steering things in the right way without taking sometimes a very, it's when they go low, we go high type of thing. Thank you, Michelle Obama, for that one.
Although, personally, when they go low, I go lower, but that's just...
Well, we can save the going lower part for the part of the conversation. Yeah.
But I think that
for me, there's a lot of issues with certain organizations and people, and all of those people and organizations will come and go if there's a void will be filled with something else.
Yeah, well.
In more ways than one. And sometimes you'll be surprised what your void can take. But we'll also say that for the adult conversation. But essentially, being that foundation for the community to be more proactive or be more aggressive is fine.
I think, first of all, I want to thank you so much for all of the work that you've done in the community. I think that I'm going to go ahead and here's the moment where that you hate, because I'm going to shower you with praise. I don't think that the Pioneers would be who they are without you. I think that in the short time that I have known you, you have become such an inspiration to me, and it have changed my trajectory in my life. So I want to thank you for that and give you your flowers.
But it's seeing people all the time when you're active as a leader of the community is seeing those new people and stirring that energy and direction and passion that people have. You can't train somebody to have passion in the community. When you see somebody has passion like you do, or like so many other people who come forward in the organizations, you want to take that passion and mold it into what they want to become.
Right.
I will put a little spin love on that. I will roll you in the right direction. I will stir you. I will be on the phone when you're down. That's what being a good leader is about. And it's not. I don't know. It's finding how everyone else can do good without. Because all of us are going to burn out at some point. All of us are going to be dead at some point. All of us are going to go. And it's the more you can get somebody who's so excited to be a part of this organization, the better it is and easier it is for everybody in the community to do stuff. Because I want to do this. Cool. I wanted to do this for the last 5 years. What does it take for this to happen? And to your passion, like this project alone is amazing. And so kudos to you to really record our stories, because if they're not recorded,
I want to capture your legacies, and I think that when you depart Kansas City for the last time as a resident of Kansas City, because it's not your last time coming to Kansas City.
I'll be back.
I hope you recognize and you know the legacy that you're leaving in the city, and that you're leaving some pretty big shoes to fill.
I think I wouldn't leave if I didn't think the community could handle it. I wouldn't leave if I didn't think everything would be okay. And part of change is letting new leaders step up, letting new people be encouraged. That being a good leader is knowing when to step aside and let new people come in and do stuff. And I'm getting old. I love that I can say I'm getting old. I feel old. I being involved in the community in the extent I have not enjoyed the community in the same way that I used to, and so I'm excited to enjoy the community again, like I used to in a whole other city.
As a spectator and a participant, not someone that
not having to deal with the squeaky wheels, not having to be nice and professional all the time. As much as I'm just nice and professional as much as
nice and professional.
I can be more candid and
we've been on a run together, and you're still nice and professional.
I'm nice and professional as I'm networking with as many people as possible. I have networked the city out.
And on that note, we are going to go ahead and take a break to start the Patreon portion of this show. So if you have a Patreon, you'll see that one coming up. If not, make sure you get on it. It's patreon.com/KCCaffeine. Any donation amount will get you access to these videos. And now's where it's going to get a little spicy. Good night, guys. All right.